Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Barren the Therapist. Thank you for tuning in, and this video is part of Infertility Awareness Week. And the reason I'm choosing this topic is because it's often a question that I receive when I'm doing presentations. And it's for the ladies, actually. The biggest question I receive is, how do I support my spouse? The answer is simple. Nah, I joke. It's hard. It's difficult because it's emotional for both of you. So sit back, tune in, take notes, because this is going to be a really deep topic that we're going to try to dive into. The areas of this video that we're going to cover are the emotions of your husband, acknowledging your own emotions, and how to support him emotionally, physically, and spiritually. So let's start with his emotions. The emotions that he's experiencing are anger, loneliness, insecurity, and ultimately depression. And each of these stages come with a complex reaction. Male infertility takes a hard hit on a man, and I know society likes to paint us as being emotionless creatures, but we feel for you. And this is a time where we need to feel for ourselves. This is a time where we need to experience those emotions and able to work them out. If we don't work them out, then we might not ever be the same. So we need you there to help support us on this journey. And I'm going to tell you how you can support us. One is, we're angry. We're angry over the fact that we can't have children of our own. We go through life and somehow believe that our manhood is connected with our genitalia. And maybe that's just what we are made to believe as we go through life and the constant association with males and sex. So we get programmed into believing that our genitalia is connected to our manhood, and now that we can't have children, we are less of a man. So we're angry, which also brings on an insecurity, because in the sea of men, how do I now measure up? How do I feel in a group of men, especially ones that have children and have a family in which I'm trying to build and establish? Which leads to loneliness, because I no longer feel secure enough to be a part of this group of males. I now just want to be alone. I isolate myself, which ultimately leads to depression and the feelings of worthlessness. So ladies, your man, your husband, your boyfriend is going through all of these emotions in which he cannot define himself. He just feels, and it doesn't even have a time. He could feel happy, you mentioned fertility, and boom, that button is pressed and he's angry now. He's lashing out at you. So be aware of his emotions, how much he can take, and what his current moods are. And in the same case, I need you to acknowledge your own mood and be aware of your emotions. I say that because during infertility, it's very easy to get into this push-pull stage. I want to talk about more. I want to talk about more. And the other person's like, I'm done. I don't want to talk about anymore. And you're pushing and pulling. So if it's one of those days where you're going to push then how much is he going to take before you need to pull back? And this is important because if you don't know the push-pull measurement, then all of a sudden you're in this argument and this fight. And nobody wants children. Nobody wants to talk about the next step. Nobody wants to talk about how they feel, because now you have pushed each other into anger and have emotions based off of just the topic becoming overwhelming. Because once you enter this journey, it seems that it never stops being talked about. There are no breaks from it. Somebody wants to ask you questions regarding your infertility. And if you're not prepared, or if you're stuck in a certain spot, there's only so much that you're going to be able to take. So that's male and female. So both ladies, be aware of his emotions, be aware of your emotions for that very reason. Let's get into this meat of it. The actual support. Ladies, support him emotionally. There are few times in life where men get to express their emotions honestly. I mean, genuine honesty. Most men, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'll be okay. Rarely does a man say, I need emotional help. Therefore, you as his spouse, know his cues, know his limits, know what he is like. So support him emotionally. This is going to be funny as I explained, not funny. This is going to be weirdly explained because they're not going to all come out at one time. We don't have that uncanny ability that women have to express their emotions at one given time. They come in spurts. So the reason they come in spurts is because he has to trust you with his emotions and see if you're just going to listen. We're not listened to a lot. So this is one time where we just need you to listen. So it's going to come out, is everything going to be okay? And you say yes. Are we going to make it? Yes. Or your honest answer. This is hard for me to deal with. And you just listen. And over time, he'll start to actually string these sentences together. And it becomes the actual emotion that he's feeling. And again, sometimes you be the judge because you know your spouse best. He is ready to talk about it fully. Sometimes he just needs you to be aware of his feelings. And he doesn't need to go in depth with it just yet. But he is trying not to shut down while trying to understand this pain of being infertile and how to actually cope with it and live with it and face the world being infertile. Though the world doesn't know he's infertile until he announces it like, moi. The next step is to support him physically. And the reason the physical support is needed is because depression has kicked in at some point. That means he's isolating, not doing activities, under-eating or overeating. Everyone recognizes sex as being that intimate connection between spouses and holding on to each other. But when you're infertile, for some reason, it all comes back to infertility and just not really being able to connect for a while. And I don't know why, because we have sex. We're intimate with each other outside of our normal day-to-day life. We're intimate with each other when we're not trying to have a child. And we're able to do it at that point. However, for some reason, when you mix in infertility, the intimacy seems to all focus on child making, though in some cases it never focused on that before. And so it's going to take this routine, this feeling of being wanted and needed, to help him get back into the mood of things. Does it sound kind of selfish? Could be. But he has to know that you still desire him for who he is. So I know this doesn't seem typical male-like behavior, but we do feel, and this is one of the ways that we need you to help us reconnect with that intimacy and that bond to bring us closer, because we feel, and at this point we don't feel desirable. As a matter of fact, we feel like it's just us existing, which brings me to my next point. Support him spiritually. Spiritually, a man can lose his faith. He can stop believing altogether. And sometimes he literally doesn't want to be here. He's have given up on life. This is a spiritual support that he needs, because he needs to know that his life is worth living, and worth living to the fullest, full of faith, full of God's promises, and that you two are going to be okay. He needs to know that you are there with them and you're going to get through it together. He needs to learn that he is still a king, and that he needs to straighten his crown so that he can walk like the man he is, and his genitalia does not make him less of a man. Support his spirit, support his growth. It's a moment of opportunity. Really be there and understand his needs as he continues to figure out what it is to be an infertile man. And he'll get there, but he has to define it for himself. And until he defines it for himself and overcome the grief of it, his spiritual needs, his spiritual energy is going to be low. So if he's going to probably want to skip church more, talk to you less about the Bible, talk to you less in general, talk to you less about himself, and probably find ways to isolate himself. If you can support him emotionally, physically, and spiritually, and you are genuinely there for him and allow him to be able to express himself, he will get through it. He will overcome. Infertility is only a singles problem when you're single. Until then, infertility is a couple's concern, and you're both affected. And to support your mate, to support your spouse. I know, ladies, you're feeling the same emotions. I know you have emotions that you feel. To support him. Sometimes, in some cases, depending on your spouse, and you know him better than I do, it takes you putting your emotions aside to be there for him, to allow him to come out this funk so he can be there for both of you. I really hope that helps. I really hope that you took a lot from that. Tune in. Let me know any questions, concerns. DM me. Follow me on Instagram at Brandon.therapist. I thank you. And till next time, peace, love, God bless.